Hello there, welcome back to my channel. Today is Tuesday, September 16th. I'll share in just a minute why I know the date so well, because that doesn't happen often. But it's been almost a week since I last vlogged, and of course, in true teacher fashion, there have been some updates that I wanted to share with you all and just take you along with me for the day. So let's go ahead and get this Tuesday started. We are gonna start with some good things, because if you have been following my vlogs, then you probably know that's one of our kind of school traditions, and it's one that I really enjoy. We kick off every meeting, whether it's a staff meeting or a team meeting, by sharing good things. And I just think it's a nice habit to get into. And similarly, when I have a conference with families, and I just had one yesterday during my planning time, I keep that same tradition, and I will start the conference by sharing good things.
I only slack off when things are good.
And quick side note with conferences, like specifically just a kind of quick virtual conference that you're having with a family, a little hack that I've been doing recently that has really helped is I will actually prepare for the conference by drafting out an email to that family. And of course, I made an email template, but essentially I just say, hey, thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me. I know meetings like this go by so fast. Here's a recap of what we discussed. And then I have a section for good things, and I'll bullet out what I plan to say. I will talk about the student's current progress, and then I will list out resources or ways that I'm gonna support the student, or kind of the plan that we formulate together. And I draft out that email to prepare for the conference. And then during the conference, I either split my screen and I have that open on one side and the conference on the other. We use Zoom. Or sometimes I even share my screen and I will directly show them that bullet point, and I will attach any files if there's gonna be a detailed score report or something like that. I attach it to the email so that way I can open it up during the meeting, share my screen, show it, and then when the meeting ends, I just send the email. Of course, if there's anything extra that came up during the meeting, I'll add that into the notes, but I feel like it helps me prepare for the conference, and then it makes my life easier after the fact to follow up. And then there's a record of what we talked about, but it's not extra work. In fact, it kind of feels like less work. But going back to good things, because that's what I said we were gonna start with. I had a good weekend. Billy's cousin, well, let me backtrack. If you don't know, Billy's dad and cousin live here in Austin. My parents live about an hour and 15 minutes away, so we have some family close by. But Billy's other cousin, so the sister of his cousin that lives here, came to visit over the weekend. So we went to downtown Austin, East 6th Street. We went to a restaurant we've been to before. It's called Leach's Cantina. They have Mexican food, very good company. I did not eat any of the food because my second good thing is that I'm currently less than a month out from my next powerlifting competition. I am competing at the Olympia in Las Vegas on October 10th. And so being under a month out when you've been training for several months is just kind of that it's right around the corner kind of feeling. But as a result, I'm very strict right now with my macro tracking. So when it comes to any social outings, I go, I participate, I'm social, but I'm just not indulging in any of the food. But I got some good free smells while I was there. And then other random side note, I had a student who had to replace their social studies notebook because the notebook they were using was an old notebook and it was falling apart. So they brought in a new one yesterday, which meant I had to make a new label for it and get them copies of all the stuff we had put in it so far. Because if they're gonna go out of their way to put an effort to get a new notebook, I can put together the notes and things so that it looks like the other one. But got that done last night. Another good thing on the school front is I have been keeping up with my postcards. So again, if you've been following along, you've probably heard me talk about this before, but we write personalized postcards for each of our students at some point throughout the year. We try to catch them really doing something good, above and beyond, a moment that we really want to celebrate with them. We will write the postcard. We send the student with the postcard to the front office. They celebrate the student, they have them put a stamp on it, and they mail it home. So then it shows up at their home a few days later. And Typically, I try to write one a week. Ideally, if I can get more than one in a week, that's great, because there are some weeks where it just gets too busy or it's a short week and you don't get to it. This year, it's a little different because we used to just send the students with postcards like in that moment, and now there are kind of dedicated days and times for us to send students. And yesterday, there was a time in the morning and a time in the afternoon. So in the morning, I had a student who I had written a postcard for at the end of last week, and it worked out really well because they helped to remind me. I had stuck their postcard just up here, and I said, all right, don't let me forget. On Monday, I've got to send you with your postcard. And first thing yesterday morning, they came in, they're like, you've got to send me with my postcard. I was like, yes, you're right. So sent them in the morning, and then I ended up writing another postcard for a student during the day and sent them in the afternoon. And it feels good to stay on top of it, because those are the types of things that if you're not careful, you kind of forget, and then before you know it, you're like, oh, I still have, 3/4 of my kids to write postcards for, and the year is almost done. Plus, as much as possible, trying to front load those things and build those positive relationships with the students and their families early on in the school year, I think is really valuable. Oh, the last good thing, this is why I know the date. Y'all are gonna think it's ridiculous, but hi, welcome to my life. Yesterday in the teacher's lounge, they had these cards for a free car wash with like a little local car wash chain. And it's today and tomorrow, and that's why I know that today is the 16th, because I'm like, I get to go get my car washed for free.
Car wash, yeah! Yes!
And it's the little things, y'all. You gotta treasure the little things. And one of the reasons you have to treasure the little things is because life loves to throw curveballs. I mentioned at the beginning that I had some updates, or rather one update since my last vlog. And that's why I haven't vlogged in several days, because I've been trying to just like get my life together. What else is new? So, as many of you know, my partner teacher, so the teacher that I share students with, like my switch teacher, is out on maternity leave. She originally was due kind of the end of the second week of school, but she ended up having her baby early before the school year started. So she has been out since students have been here, and we started with a kind of temporary sub in the position, like another staff member just kind of filled in until we could get the long-term sub ready to take over. The long-term sub has been subbing since then, and then I found out last week that the long-term sub is moving into another role, and I'm really excited for that transition, but that means that we are having a new sub take over next week? Yeah, next week. And not thankfully, I mean, that's probably the wrong wording, but it will only be for another like 4 weeks-ish until my partner teacher comes back from maternity leave. But it's we're keeping things interesting, we're keeping things spicy, and these are the types of moments where I feel like it's very easy to get overwhelmed or to have a negative mindset, and I'm just kind of going, okay, this is out of my control, we're gonna do the best that we can, what can I do right now to make it better? And part of it is just not stressing out about it, not overthinking it, because again, I can't control it. And then trying to be proactive with getting things done, like planning and getting ahead on things as much as possible, because I know, again, during that transition, it's gonna be a lot on my plate to help the new sub coming in get, acclimated to here's how we're doing things, get up to speed, and then plus that new sub will not be a long-term sub, so there are certain things that they cannot do, like grading and so on, which means more responsibilities, but it's fine, everything's fine. Again, I'm just choosing not to stress out about it. Like, I'll take it one day at a time, and it's all figure-outable, y'all. Oh, and I will add in there one positive, because you always gotta find the glimmers, right? You have to find the good things, as I started this vlog with. But next week, we actually have 2 PD days. So we have PD on Monday and Tuesday, which means no students on those days. And then it's a 3-day week for students. And even though the PD days, like I'm in meetings all day, it's not like I just have free time. I think it will kind of give me a chance to like catch my breath before that transition, because even when you're in meetings all day, I feel like just not having students on those days, which means you're not having additional papers to grade that they're completing, and you don't have hopefully as many like emails to respond to from families, like it just allows you to catch your breath a little bit. And Speaking of PD, tomorrow, I believe, we have our next compliance module that releases. So these are like those bloodborne pathogen type videos that you have to complete at the beginning of the year. We have our first module that we do at the end of the summer and start of the school year. That's been done for a while now, but we then have a second one that releases around this time, and it will become available tomorrow. And I already have it on my checklist to get it done because I want it done and I don't want to have to worry about it going into next week. So that's how we're keeping a positive mindset within all of this. Now let's shift and talk about instruction. This week for science, we are focused on density. So because this science unit spans 4 weeks, I don't reset my word wall until the end of that time. So here's what I did for mass last week. Y'all, that hot air balloon, that was like my third take, okay? I don't know what it is, but apparently I cannot draw a hot air balloon. However, today we are gonna be reading in the textbook and taking notes on density. So one of my goals for the day is to get this science word wall filled in, and I have something really exciting to add to it. Let me show you. Yesterday, we did our science investigation. Almost every week, on Monday or whatever the first day of the week is our investigation day. And I have to shout out my students again and brag about them because our science time is so limited. We have to go at lightning speed, and they did a phenomenal job following directions, getting it done, and cleaning up. I told them I want the materials returned the exact same way you got them because we were testing different objects with relative density. So a golf ball, a ping pong ball, a penny, a marble, a piece of sponge, and a cork. They were getting them wet, and I had told them, make sure you dry them off, make sure you dry off your measuring cup after, and they did great. So at the end of the day, I was cleaning up the rest of the materials, and I started to take these all down to the science lab, our resource room. And then I said, Michelle, how about you just put them in a baggie, label it, so chapter 2, lesson 3, relative density, keep it in with your science materials so that next year it's already ready to go. That makes a lot more sense. So that's what I've done, with the exception of one set. I love the humidity that's in here. All of a sudden, as I was putting them in the baggie, I said, wait, if I put one of each object in the baggie and then fill the baggie with water, it's like a little density in a bag. So my plan is to put this by the word wall. I don't think I trust hanging it, but it is a zipper baggie, so it should be fine, but I don't want to chance it falling off the word wall. However, I'm gonna place it on the ledge by the word wall, so that way my students, in theory, can pick it up and they can see the different objects and the densities. I just thought that was such a simple thing, but it's the little things, that you get excited about, and you're like, this is such a good idea. And I don't know, I was proud of myself for that one. And on that note, I really wanna find a little magnetic shelf, not very long, 6 inches-ish, that I could put up on the word wall and then put items these are the blocks that we measured the mass of last week. I wanna be able to put them on the shelf somewhere on the word wall. Does that make sense? So if you have a magnetic shelf that you like and that holds up and is strong, leave a comment, let me know. I'm not talking about these. I have these magnetic, they're little bookcases almost. I love those, but I want a shelf. I want something that is just kind of long and flat that I can put objects like this on the word wall, if that makes sense. But for now, I'm gonna put our little density in a baggie here on the ledge. Okay, it's not working. See, it's fine, everything's fine. I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna make it work. But I did have to laugh because I've been staring at this since yesterday and it has been driving me nuts. These word wall cards got kind of jostled around because yesterday in math, we started metric measurement. And one of the things I had my students do is a scavenger hunt around the room. We talked about the different metric units for length. So specifically, centimeters, meters, kilometers. We touched a little bit on millimeters, but I gave them examples of things that are about each length. So for example, the width of your pinky is about a centimeter. The width of a door frame is about a meter. The distance you could walk in about 10 minutes is around a kilometer. Then they went on a scavenger hunt around the room. So they worked in partners or groups of 3. They were given a ruler. They had to find things that were about a centimeter. And then I also gave them a meter stick, and they had to find things that were about a meter. And it was funny because they just happened to test my desk, and it was like exactly a meter tall. I did not even plan that. And then my IFP, or my interactive flat panel, which this moves up and down, was also like exactly a meter. So that worked out well, but they were, testing a bunch of things, and they had knocked those word wall cards. So currently our math word wall has been reset. This was one thing that I did on Friday. We took our math test for the previous unit, started this new unit, which meant I cleared off the whiteboard and I got it set up. So I did not have time yesterday to fill it in. That's another goal for today. But I went ahead and just kind of categorized those word wall cards. So as I put them up, I kind of designated space for each of the different things that we will cover within this module. This is only like a 7-lesson module, so it'll be gone pretty quickly. And on that note, plus going back to baggies, something else I've been loving lately is this 1/2-gallon size baggie. It's perfect for storing my word wall cards. They fit in there, like literally, it could not be a more perfect fit. And so what I've been doing is kind of grouping those cards as I put them away, because before they were just scattered all in here, which was fine, not ideal, but it got the job done. So now, as I've been going through each unit, I kind of grouped the cards together. So like these were, excuse me, I have a hiccup. These were all of the word wall cards from the second part of the module. So after we took our test, that was like midway through. This was the second half. I put them all in a 1/2-gallon size baggie. These are also the baggies that I use for my students' Chromebook chargers. They're just the perfect size. And then it fits in there and it's so nice. And I've been doing the same thing with science. So I've already put the baggies like in the drawer so that for this next unit, as I go through, because the cards are all under here, they're just kind of scattered, like, yeah, it's a hot mess. Then I can group them together and organize them in the baggies. And then I'm also proud of myself because on Friday when we took our math test, I also kind of established a new routine for switching out my students' workbooks. So for every module, we have 3 workbooks. You may remember at the end of the summer, I had to come in and like inventory all of the books and count them all for the grade level and make sure that we had enough. It was quite the task. But for each module, each student gets a learn book. That's like their daily workbook where they do their problem set and their exit ticket and their application problem. They have a practice book. That's where they do some of their fluency activities like the sprints. And then they have a Succeed book, which is meant to be like a homework book, but we are not using it as a homework book because we send our own homework home. We like to incorporate like spiral review problems. As a result, we are just sending home the Succeed books at the start of each new module so that students have it and families have it as extra support at home, because it will show them like how to solve the problems, and if any students go to like tutoring, it gives them a resource to be able to have. So my new little routine that I've established as of Friday is when we finish a module, I have them take out their current learn and practice book to take home. I give them the Succeed book for the new module. So they are taking home 3 books, the learn and practice book that we've been using the past several weeks, and then the new Succeed book that is blank. They put it in their backpack, or if it's my afternoon class, they put it in their switch bag. And then I give them their new learn and practice book and they put it directly into the drawer where we store it next to their groups. And I felt like that transition was fairly seamless on Friday. At the beginning of the year, I printed like real tiny little labels. They're like, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch, maybe a 1/2 an inch by like 1 inch. They're real tiny little labels. I printed sheets where it has like a whole column for one student, and it was enough for me to label all of their books for the year. So instead of like handwriting their names on the books, I just plopped the label on, and I had done that on Thursday night. So on Friday, I handed out the books, got them all passed out, and it felt good. It's those little things where I'm like, I need to figure out a routine. Speaking of which, intervention, let's talk about that, because the way we are doing intervention this year is a little bit different, mostly because our staffing for intervention, like services, has gone down, which means more of it is falling on us as the classroom teachers. I transitioned to a binder, and that is something I have not said in years, When I first started teaching, I loved to have binders for everything, but since then, I don't keep a lot of paper. I prefer digital. But with intervention, it's a lot of paper materials because the pre-assessments that I give students, they're all paper with the exception of the very last one, like the 4th grade level one. And the day-to-day kind of work that we're doing, I like to have like the printed lesson plan so I can have it in front of me. Sometimes I have printed copies of like the word problems. And so all of a sudden I was getting a lot of paper and I'm like, what do I do with this? Plus I wanted to be able to keep a record of what I've done. And that meant I needed a binder. This is just a random binder that I had in my bin, but I've already showed you in previous vlogs this kind of data analysis / planning sheet, which I think I changed again since I last showed you. I don't even remember at this point. But here is the current version. So up at the top, I put the pre-assessment topic, the TEK, and the grade level. I have aside for my morning students, aside for my afternoon, this is where I track how my students do on the pre-assessment. Something I added is this little key, so it's a way for me to note how they performed on that question on the pre-assessment. So if they got it correct, I put a check. If they got it wrong because they mixed up the concept, I put a letter M. If they made a computational error, I put a C. If their thinking is not visible, meaning I don't know what they did, I just put an N. If they left it blank, meaning they didn't get to it in the time frame or they didn't even know how to start it, I put a B, and then other, I put an O. I have a spot to leave any notes. And then down at the bottom, I decided instead of writing out actual detailed plans, I would just have a section for notes because I was quickly finding that it was a waste of time for me to rewrite the plans here when a lot of the intervention plans are already written. And if you're curious like where I'm getting those resources from, they're from my district. So it's not something that I can share, but I'm pulling from resources my district has provided. And so rather than rewriting it, I'm just printing out the lesson plan. And as a result, I just needed a spot to document notes on like how my students did during that lesson. So then in the binder, I will have that data analysis sheet. It's like the very first sheet. Obviously I can't show you because I have like student information on it, but that's the very first sheet. And then in order, I have all of my different like lesson plans and things. So for example, like this is a printed lesson plan and it's just there so that I can reference it. And of course I can go in and like highlight. After that, I have any printed things that I've prepared. So for example, some of them have like word problems for us to prompt students with. Well, not issue, but I want to be able to have like a big copy to show students. So for example, I would print it like this, and then usually when I show students, I just kind of fold it. So if we're working on this first problem, I just fold it so that I can show them just that problem. And then when we're ready, I flip it and I've got the other one. These are all things I'm just hole punching and putting in the binder, and they go in the order that I plan to use them that week. Same thing with their check for understandings. I have them just hole punched, ready to go. That way I can keep these as a record of how my students did. And at the end of the unit, I also have my like little answer keys where I've gone through and like worked them out. And I'll keep these in here so that I have them. But when I finish that week of plans, I will staple all of these together. Now, I don't need to keep the lesson plan per se, but I'll keep that data analysis sheet, evidence of student work, staple it, and then keep it in the binder. The next week, I'll put the materials in front. So it'll just kind of build over time. But that is what I have been doing, last week and then so far this week. And I feel like it's working. Will I change it again? Yeah, I'm sure I will, but it's a work in progress, as with most things. So on my agenda today, I do have planning time, yay, because as I mentioned yesterday at a conference, so I didn't get planning time. Tomorrow I have a meeting with the other math and science teachers. I have a staff meeting after school tomorrow. Thursday we have our team planning, and I just feel like I like to get my lesson planning done early in the week. So next week is a short week. As I mentioned, students are only here Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I have already planned out Wednesday and Thursday because it's the end of the current math module that we're on, and I just planned the whole thing at once. So I need to plan one more math lesson for Friday next week. I also need to hopefully get the science word wall done and the math word wall done. I will try to do those, while teaching and like in the moment, but sometimes I have to go in afterward and like add to it and make it look more presentable. And then I feel like if I can get that done today, I'll be satisfied. But I will check in with you at the end of the day, let you know how it went. Okay, it is after school, AKA let's regroup time. You know what, my back table, all things considered, is not terrible. I have my intervention materials that are just kind of living over here. I have my personal copy of our workbook for the current module because, as I mentioned, I am using this as like my answer key, and I am still working through, I've done through tomorrow's lesson and like half-ish of the next day, but I need to go ahead and just like finish this. And yes, I can pull up answer keys online, but I like to have it written in the book because it's easier to put that under the document camera, and I like to work through the problems to kind of internalize it for myself. I have a couple of homeworks that were turned in today. Homework is due on Fridays, but I like to grade it as it comes in because then it's less for me to manage on Friday. Let's see, I have my personal laptop, I have my school laptop, I can go ahead and plug that in. And then I have this that my team teacher, the reading teachers need for something they're using, and they only have one, but because we have 2 classes, they need a second one, but she needs me to like scan it and get a PDF of it in color. So I told her I would take that home and do that. I have my lemonade that I made this morning. It's like one of those drink packets that I never got a chance to drink. However, I have a Tiff's Treat cookie that a student brought in to take home. This will go to Billy because, as I mentioned, I am in prep for my meet, but I like to be able to bring him treats at home, and it's a way to kind of acknowledge like all that he does for me. I also have some random craft supplies back here because the next ELA unit, it's something about like inventors or something, and I guess they're gonna do some kind of like a STEM type activity. Honestly, I don't know, but we sent an email to families yesterday to say, hey, if you have any craft type materials at home, please send them in with students. I need to take those to my switch teacher. But otherwise, we're looking decent back here. And I'm happy to report that at least 2 of the things I said I wanted to get done today are done, and those would be my word walls. So let me show you an update. All right, here is science first. For the density in a baggie, I just used a magnet to kind of hold it up. The magnet isn't strong enough to hold it like all the way up on the board, but it at least is keeping it on the shelf. And my students were super into that. So I'm happy that I did that. Here is how I displayed the information on the board. And I tried to keep it as simple as possible, but hitting that key information. And then I'm trying to do a better job this year of including data and evidence from our investigations. And then just to show you, this is what our notebook looks like. So yesterday, we completed the investigation. It's all relative. We collected our data, and these are the objects that are in that baggie and also that I have here at the bottom of the board. Then today we took notes on relative density. So you'll notice the word wall kind of mirrors what they have in their notebook. And then tomorrow we will start, well, actually no, tomorrow we're doing another investigation from the science penguin, which I absolutely love her, but then we will start our CER. So I went ahead and glued mine in my notebook, and I need to do a better job of adding more stickers. I need to be giving stickers out to my students more often for them to add to their notebooks. Note to self. Pun intended. And then here is what I've got for math. So tomorrow we will cover capacity, but thus far, I just have a very basic definition of the metric system, just getting students to realize it's a system of measurement. It's used pretty much everywhere else. And here in the United States, we have the customary system, but just getting them to kind of recognize that difference. Convert just means to change units, and I have a quick example. Mixed units means you have different units. And then I put the definition of length and mass as well as examples for each of the different units that we have been talking about. And these are examples that they have in their math notebook. In fact, let me grab that. So here's what their math notebook looks like. And you'll notice the examples that are in their math notebook are the same examples that we have up here for them to reference. And then I put an example of getting the same units. Also in their math notebook, we did an example as a class showing 2 different ways to solve 10 kilometers minus 3 kilometers, 140 meters. So we talked about the algorithm where you get the same unit, so convert them both to meters, then you subtract, versus you can also use what's called a simplifying strategy where you can subtract the kilometers, so 10 minus 3 is 7, but you still have to subtract 140 meters. So you can pull out a kilometer and know that that's 1,000 meters and subtract from there. But we starred this one because we kind of agreed as a class that a majority of us prefer to do that strategy. Then today we focus on metric measurements, and again, the references that they have for each unit in their notebook are the same as up here. Now, I do not have a word wall card for milligram because it's just not one that we really focus on, but they do have that in their notebook. And then we worked through how to solve this addition, so getting the same unit and then adding it all together, or adding like units. So we talked about how you can set this up just like the algorithm for addition and subtraction, add your grams, add your kilograms, and then if you end up with more than 1,000 grams, you can then convert that into kilograms and grams. And I also have kind of a similar problem here, but with subtraction. So showing them, hey, you can convert them both into grams, and then from there you can add and or subtract depending on the operation that you're using. So all in all, I'm happy that I at least got that done. But if my memory serves me, although it rarely does, I think I also said I wanted to plan that other day of math for next week, which the 2 days next week, Wednesday and Thursday, those are the last 2 days of our current math unit, and those were days that I had to make from scratch because last year when we used Eureka, this unit was only 5 days and 5 lessons, whereas this year it's 7. And so I had to go in, it's basically lessons on input-output tables. We did not have that as part of this unit last year, so I had to make those from scratch. So I'm happy those are done. The lesson for Friday next week, which is starting the next module, I did not even open that module today, have not looked at it. Thankfully, I'm not starting from scratch. Like I already have what I did last year, but I never got a chance to even look at it. And it's just crazy because I think about my planning time and I'm like, but where did that time go? I know where it went. I had to meet with some people to discuss some things, answer emails, process all of the chaos from the morning of like getting kids caught up on work, getting redos done, all of that. And then there goes the planning time and no actual planning took place, just tying up loose ends. But it's fine. I'm gonna get that lesson done tonight because as I mentioned, tomorrow I meet with my team teachers and I wanna make sure I have all my ducks in a row to be able to go over that with them. But that means I need to get out of here. It's still pretty early. Like school only ended less than an hour ago. So I'm getting out of here at a decent time. I need to head to the gym, get my training done, get home, go for a walk, make dinner, read a book, all of those things, and then plan and shower and get up tomorrow and do it all again. It's fine, everything is fine. But if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. As always, thank you for watching. I love you so much because I don't know how you put up with my craziness by choice. Don't forget to put your positive pants on and I'll catch you in the next one. Y'all, I've not even had caffeine, okay? I think that's the problem. I probably need caffeine. Okay, I'll see you in the next one.